Hello, I am Gonçalo Pereira. I'm teaching at Escola Profissional de Ciências Geográficas in Lisbon, and this is my colleague.
I am Helena Moita de Deus and I'm a teacher at Agrupamento de Escolas Amadora Oeste in Amadora.
We are presenting a project that includes 2 experimental activities where 8th grade students are going to investigate sea level rise and greenhouse effect. In our set of activities, students start analyzing a newspaper article about sea level rise and formulate a problem and propose a few hypotheses. From there, they start their investigation in the laboratory.
In their first investigation, the students use a model of a coastal zone with different slopes. This model can actually be built by the students, for example, in an art class.
In the model, ice is used to simulate glaciers, and the air dryer creates heat to simulate the Earth's atmosphere. The cloth softener is used to simulate seawater, providing the contrast needed to make accurate readings of the rise of sea level and the advance of the shoreline. The contrast also helps to comprehend the interface between the freshwater and the saltwater.
The experiment lasts for about 20 minutes. One group of students will study the variables using the hairdryer with less heat, velocity 1. The second group studies the same variables but using the hairdryer with more heat, velocity 2. Now we present the experiment. This is the beginning of our experiment. We have the cloth softener already inside our model. Now we're marking the initial level of the sea with a ruler and we mark it with a dash. This is the beginning. Here we have about 1 kilogram of frozen water, ice, and we're gonna put it here to simulate our glacier. Then we have a setting of clothespins, and we're going to use the different colors to mark different levels in our model. We're going to start with pink here. These pins will mark a specific location that we're trying to analyze the progression of the sea level to see which one will flood first. Now we can see a closer detail of our locations. Here you have the locations at the edge of the water. The first group will collect the data using the hairdryer at a lower velocity. Let's see how it works. The second group will use the second velocity of the hairdryer with more heat. As you can see, the ice is melting and is feeding this river, this stream of water that will eventually get to the sea. 5 minutes later, here's the level of the water. Let's see the difference of our location markers. This one is dry. This one is flooded. This one is flooded. This one is flooded. And this is totally flooded. 10 minutes after we started our experiment, let's see the level of the water. As you can see, it raised again. So now we mark again. Ten minutes later. Look at the ice. You can see now how thinner it is. The water is feeding not only this lake here, but also the river. Let's now look at our pins, which mark the locations we are studying. Now we're going to use the green one. Let's take a look at our pins. This was the first one. Even though it was in a slope that was steeper, the water is already here, so it's flooded. Let's take a look at the other ones. This one is flooded already. The same here. Here's the same thing. And as you can see, the water rises up to this level. So all this region is flooded by water. 15 minutes later, let's see the level of our water. Mark it with a ruler and write down the time. 15 minutes. Let's take a look again at our pins. Looking at this one and projecting it, we can say that the water is here right now, and here it is right now, and it's flooding this whole area. Let's see how it is in here. There it is. Now here it's totally flooded. There's nothing left above water. Let's wait 5 more minutes. Almost 20 minutes later, take a look at the ice. It's nothing but a very thin layer of ice that still is melting over this lake, still feeding the lake, still feeding the river, and coming to meet the sea. 20 minutes later, let's see the level of our water. There we go. 20 minutes later. Let's look inside. Okay, let's take a look at what happened to our location markers. They're all flooded. Actually, this whole threshold here is covered with water, which means that this can be very destructive towards human constructions, but also it can be lethal to coastal ecosystems.
During the experiment, students construct tables and graphs. We present next 3 graphs representing the sea level rise, the advance of shoreline in the lower slope and in the steeper slope. In the end of the first experiment, students understand that the sea level rise is due to the melting of glaciers because of the increase of the atmosphere temperatures. Nevertheless, the experiment doesn't explain the source of the increase of the atmosphere temperatures, which poses a new problem.
In the second experiment, the students will study the source of the heat. Students are divided in 3 groups. The first one studies the increase of temperature in a model of the Earth without a plastic wrap. The second one studies the increase of temperature in a model of the Earth with one layer of plastic wrap. The third one studies the increase of temperature in a model of the Earth with two layers of plastic wrap.
So, in these three models, we simulate the Earth system. In the first group, without greenhouse effect, in the second group, with less greenhouse effect, and in the third group, with more greenhouse effect. Next, we show you a few pictures of the experimental settings. During the experiment, students register temperature per minute. They present data in tables and graphs, for example. In the second experiment, students understand that the rise of atmosphere temperatures is due to the increase of the greenhouse effect. With the second experiment, students can complete the answer to the initial problem.
The experiments here presented are an opportunity for students to learn in an active way, developing skills such as diagnosing problems, formulating hypotheses, engaging in investigations, collecting and analyzing data, critiquing experiments and models, discussing with others, and working in group.
Both experiments use analog modeling, so the teacher needs to discuss with students the advantage and limitations of this methodology. For example, the students need to understand that some materials are literal and others are analogous.
Along these investigations, students live and reflect upon some of the processes of science construction, experiencing the methods used by scientists every day in their own labs.
The two experiments can be the starting point to discuss the science of climate change, its consequences, and strategies of mitigation and adaptation.
Thank you for your attention.